This place is great, really comfortable. I'm just gonna get settled in. Time to move on. Get on with my life. Yes, absolutely. Now, like I said, it was a long time ago. Let it go. Seriously.
Hello everyone, welcome to Why Haven't I Played, a series which takes a dive into one of the great questions we all ask ourselves. Today, we take an in-depth look at Max Payne 3. Max Payne 3 is the third installment in a series of games that draws heavy influences from film noir and Hong Kong action flicks. Now, the first Max Payne was a near masterpiece of an action game. It told most of its story with an in-game graphic novel, while the rest was told through the details in the environments and Max's narration. It was dark, it was gritty, it was the most damned fun I'd ever had in a shooter at that point, bar Halo Combat Evolved. I haven't played the second one, but it was vastly more critically acclaimed, even scoring several Game of the Year nods by major publications. Max Payne 3 was developed and released on May of 2012 for the Xbox and PS3, and for Windows in June of the same year by Rockstar Games. Now, I bought this game around August, but vowed not to open it until Christmas, because I had very fond memories of the first game, and I wanted the first time I played this game to be somewhat enhanced by the joy of the holidays. I played through the entire game in a marathon session about a day or two after I completed Halo 4. And what I can tell you is that this time, Max Payne 3 is a superior experience to Halo 4, at least in terms of its campaign, and we'll get to why Halo 4 is not a great game in a couple of episodes, but suffice to say, I had an absolute blast with Max Payne 3. In order to dive deep into this game, we will have to divide it into sections, starting with graphics and art design. This is a beautiful game, with lots of vivid colors and gorgeous graphics. The animation quality is seriously some of the best I've ever seen. Enemies will react in realistic ways to getting shot. Max Payne will reload a gun even if he is holding an assault rifle in his other hand, and the infamous bullet camera, which tracks the final bullet in a vicious gunfight, remains as impressive as ever. The environments for each chapter are awesomely detailed and varied. In one chapter you could be fighting in the favelas of Sao Paulo, and in another you could be fighting the mob in a graveyard. There has been some seriously beautiful work put into this game, and I urge you to explore whatever areas of each level you can, to soak it all in. The cutscenes are also, for the most part, extremely well done, experimenting with flashy cuts and filters, and the placing of words on the screen helps connect this game with its graphic novel style predecessors. What the cutscenes do sometimes accomplish, however, is giving me a massive headache. Early on in the game, some of the cutscenes literally made my eyes hurt, with all of the visual feedback and distortion being employed. Eventually, I got used to the effect, but it does have the potential to annoy rather than captivate, which is a shame, because the cutscenes are rather stylish, and without the excessive feedback, they could have been more engaging. As it stands, they definitely drag down some of the experience. This feedback also carries over into gameplay, with the screen distorting as you take painkillers and random shots of feedback every now and then. I guess you could make the case that this serves as a literal representation of Max Payne's distorted perspective on his world, but there are many ways to accomplish this without giving people headaches. Sound design and music. Let's get this out of the way. The music in this game is awesome. Imagine the best parts of the Matrix movies, but with a bit more grace and subtlety, and you have the soundtrack in a nutshell. Health has done an amazing job, providing each gunfight with an adrenaline-pumping score while avoiding being bombastic like the Halo series or Gears of War. This is truly cinematic quality stuff. It provides an emotional core for the game, instantly elevating many of the gunfights into near classic set pieces. One of the scenes where the music makes a huge impact is the graveyard sequence, where you fight an army of mobsters. The score harkens back to the original game in this section, bringing back some of the musical themes in those games to highlight the damage done to Payne by the mob. I urge you to buy the soundtrack for this game, as it is a stone cold classic. Sound design overall for this game is great, as to be expected from Rockstar. Each and every gun sounds powerful, and the slowdown effect of the bullet time enhances this. The environmental ambiances are lush with detail, and for once the footsteps don't annoy me in a third-person game. What can I say? This game is great in terms of its sound design and music. Gameplay and level design. The gameplay is absolutely amazing. As a result of its signature bullet time mechanic, each and every encounter has the potential to become a hard-boiled style massacre if you get the timing right. However, there are a few nagging issues here and there. For starters, the game introduces a cover mechanic to Max Payne 3, but when you are in cover, you are essentially invulnerable from the front, and you can pick off enemies at your leisure unless they flank you, which the AI will thankfully try and do, but for the most part you are a god when in cover. Another issue is the lack of feedback when you take damage. Now this might have been a logical place where all of the visual feedback and distortion could have come in play, but you have to suffice with Max's grunts of pain. And in the heat of massive gun battles, you can find yourself being taken out quite quickly because it is hard to tell when you are about to die or not. Even in bullet time, you will find your health draining incredibly fast, so you're almost forced to be more cautious than the bullet time wants you to be. In essence, the best use of the bullet time I found was to score quick headshots and then duck back behind cover, and then repeat. When the game finds a nice big spot with lots of cover and lots of bad guys, you can reenact any John Woo film you want with impunity. But for the most part, you are forced down by lots of enemies using their cover effectively to put you down. And that's not extremely fun. It's not boring by any means, it's just not as adrenaline pumping as it could have been. Thankfully, however, just because you can be put down relatively quickly does not mean that you will be out of the fight. If you have a ready store of painkillers and your health is depleted, Max will automatically go into bullet time mode, and if you kill your would-be assassin, then you can jump back into the fight minus one painkiller. This mechanic saved my ass a lot of times, and you will be thankful for it too. Getting the ability to try and take out your attacker instead of just dying having to restart the whole gunfight really helps the flow of this game. You also get more bullet time from killing enemies and taking damage, so you can always get some more when needed. Shoot dodging returns from the earlier games, but with the added quote-unquote bonus of instantly being turned off if you collide with any part of the environment. Now this could have been put in for more strategic players who savor knowing when they can pull off some sweet shots, but for the most part it is annoying when you lose the use of your bullet time, which could have saved your life because you lightly brushed a wall. Max Payne also handles pretty poorly sometimes, like when he is climbing upstairs. His movement becomes all janky and unresponsive, which cost me a lot of retries of certain sections of the game. For the most part, he does control pretty smoothly, but he often takes an eternity to respond to your commands, and in a game where your health can drop in a matter of seconds, that can sometimes lead to frustrating moments. But the most frustrating elements of the game can come from the level design. Everything that I've mentioned above can be exacerbated by the level design, and in fact is almost always caused by the level design, which will sometimes force you into areas of little to no cover, and your only choice is to charge the enemy or hang back and slowly pick them off, which can ruin the pace of the game a lot. There is one or two levels in which this becomes obnoxious, like on a cruise ship where you're fighting Panamanian military commandos and you're forced to go up a set of stairs. They have cover, you don't. There was a myriad of bugs and little glitches that also broke my immersion in this game. Like when an entire level glitched out and I was able to no-clip through the final section and not trigger the cutscene, which forced me to restart one of the most frustrating levels in the game to continue. Another point had me firing a grenade launcher out of cover, but for some mysterious reason the gun would only fire upwards into the sky, and it resulted in me accidentally killing Passos and forcing me to restart from the last checkpoint. There were other instances where Max would straight out refuse to move or do anything until an enemy came up and shot me, letting me go into that bullet time to kill him to get my health back. But thankfully these issues were minor blips in an otherwise smoothly running game. The AI of the enemy is demanding and yet sometimes suicidal, running straight at you out of cover and spraying bullets everywhere. Your AI partner Passo seems to be literally useless, his only useful actions seeming to be entirely scripted. There were moments when I was facing down a horde of enemies and Passo would just sit behind cover sucking his thumb while I took them all out.
You need some help there, brother?
I needed help 5 minutes ago.
Looked like you were doing fine.
The challenge ramps up in this game considerably, as enemies start wearing flak jackets and helmets, forcing you to take them all out with extreme precision, which is where the bullet time comes in handy. Despite all these flaws, however, they are redeemed by moments like this. Story and script. And last but not least, we have the story. One of the strengths of Max Payne 1 was its revenge quest, soaked in atmosphere and references to Norse mythology, which gave the story context as a warrior's tale in an unforgiving world. Max Payne 3 has some elements of that, but they quickly disappear under an avalanche of revelations, betrayals, and flashbacks. That's not to say that the story is bad, but it doesn't have the emotional core that the earlier games had in spades, and that may ultimately be this game's great failing. The story dives deep into the corruption of Brazilian police and corporate conspiracies, with a dose of politics in for good measure. It's a tale of redemption for past sins, but it could have used more connections to previous games to provide some more context for him to atone for. It is to the story's credit that it never gets boring, but you will forget the finer details after all is said and done. The best parts of the story come from the flashbacks to when Max was still based in New York, and your fights with the Mafia. Soaked with the atmosphere of the original games, these sections are a highlight. At the end of it all, when Max brings the corrupt police force down, we are left with him sipping martinis on a beach. A bit anticlimactic, but hey, the endgame set pieces were phenomenal, so we take what we can get. The script is heavily inspired by old school film noir mixed with modern sensibilities, so what this means is that the characters swear a lot and crack wise. Max in particular gets a boatload of lines that come across as indulgent.
This place was like Baghdad with G-strings.
But come off better in the context of his world-weary personality. There is a lot of depth and analysis to be had here, but compared to Max, almost every other character is kinda dull, with the main villains basically being uber evil cliches with only one dimension to them. There are some good characters, like a cop named De Silva, who is working to bring down the corruption, and Passos, who, despite his uselessness in combat, gets some good lines and character building. Though Max is a little quick to forgive him for a stupid thing he does, not to spoil it too much. But we view the entirety of the game through Max's analysis of the situation, and he is very good company, even if he is a bit depressing at times. So after all that, with such a huge list of flaws, how can I possibly think this is one of the best games of the year? Well... What it lacks in atmosphere, it makes up for in gusto and awe, and any complaints quickly become minor because no other game lets you simultaneously feel this powerful and yet this vulnerable. It is a parallel that enhances the game in every aspect. While many may complain about the set-piece nature of this game, I feel that it is a different kind of set-piece than Battlefield 3 and Black Ops 2, mostly because it executes them so well, and the levels are more often than not the set-pieces themselves, which each gunfight is merely a facet of. Max Payne 3 is a game that is definitely worth your time, and I would highly recommend picking it up and experiencing one of the great action games of all time.
How many fools? You Max Payne?
Who?
Very fucking funny.
Whatever.
You're Max Payne. I thought he was fucking Max Payne.
Confusing, huh?
Hey, you make one more move, and this guy, whoever the fuck he is gonna get fucking dead. Look, man, give yourself up, and DeMarco might have a change of conscience, huh? Might grant you one last reprievement. Ain't no reprievement gonna be found otherwise.
I don't even know who he is.
Jump should be dead already!
Chill the fuck out!
Thank you for watching. This has been Thoughtful Salt, and I will see you next time.